Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 10th episode of the Biggening Corporation. And just to recap for people joining us, we are building an incremental game using Business Central, where players use bots to work as virtual employees, operate for vendors and customers to generate wealth, and players will compete to see who can generate the most wealth each season. So, today a little bit different. For one, we're a couple hours later in the day. Second, while we are going to continue the research system, and we are going to review our whiteboard from a couple episodes ago, we also have a little more progress in the code. Some of the let's call it humdrum sort of work of creating a variety of tables and pages, I will speed through in a little bit of a time lapse for you to see. Where we had left off last time, we were looking at a whiteboard of some of the things that we needed to get done. We needed some variety of things for sales, like we eventually started calling these prospects, where potentially they might be able to farm up new contacts to purchase and see which potential things should become customers. We needed a similar sort of workflow in purchasing. We needed master company items, where we potentially have bill of material information that we'll use, some item categories. We were also talking about the research tree, how there would be different prerequisites and that sort of thing. We are going to spend much of our time today in the research tech tree area of the system. I think that's where we'll get our most value for today. But there is a bunch of code that has already been checked into the repo. Some of the first off-camera work of the series. We made it pretty far, 10 episodes in without it. So mostly it's things like creating the rest of the different dispatch bots. They are all using the same general template of on run, returning a result text, very copy and paste code across it, but we tidied up our dispatcher bot. So without further ado, I will run that little bit of a time lapse, and we'll be right back and go through some of the things that have changed. Okay, so as you can see, we did quite a bit of different things here. Working our way backwards a little bit through things, we went ahead and finished up some of the different type handling we talked about when we originally coded our bot dispatcher, creating the sequence of which that players can rely on for the bot operations. So purchasing goes into inventory, into assembly, manufacturing, sales, and then finally research and marketing. And as you saw a little bit in the stream, we tidied up some of the code here that logged what was happening, whether it's successful or if it was an error. We probably will clean up the comments at some point. We don't need to have yay, it worked on everything. But those were simple function calls just to create some new local procedures to log the info. So now we have a variety of different bot code units that we will be able to expand on significantly in the future. And as you saw, we also created a few more pieces of information. For example, we created a new table in the player company called Prospect to handle a prospective customer or vendor based on an option type setting here. And we said what their maximum orders per day or quantity per day, quantity per order would be. And then for each prospect that our bots will find, we have also the ability to see that there is a new subsidiary table called Prospect Trades, that for a given prospect, which we pull down the customer and vendor type with a flow field using the lookup method of the calc formula, we will have trade types against given items or item categories. And again, a line number as our ending primary key on this, so we can auto split key. This will allow us to code up our different bots, marketing on the sales side and purchasing on the purchasing side, to generate a certain number of prospects over time and generate some different qualities of trade. So for example, we may have some of the customers might buy at different classes of items. So we support the item category concept for a trade type. And on the supplier side, we'll choose what suppliers we'll carry. For the moment, we haven't done anything with that just yet. However, I did go ahead and create a basic list, a non-editable list for the player to review the open prospects that are in front of them, along with a fact box, a new area to the stream. In a list layout here, we have the layout section, and one of the areas available to us is the fact box area. So we will list a list page here, a list part, that is a repeater of what the different trades that this particular prospect supports. We also created a new master item table. This is a very lightweight beginning template for the item, and this is going to be something that we will set up. And we missed a nice thing here. We can do data per company equals false. Because this will be our master index of all the items that the game will have. And for the way that we're architecting this, the different classes are in the product posting group. We have class 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to add some item category codes in the class 2 and 3 levels, so that way the player can unlock some potentially different assembly and production operations. So that's pretty good. And in relation to that, we have for the assembly and manufacturing side, this should also be data per company false, we have the ability to say for a given item, we will want to have components that and a number of quantity of those components. We will use those to populate the assembly and production bill of material tables when we have the player unlock the relevant technology that would unlock the class 2 and class 3 of that item category. let's see. And then we have a master item list that is the same sort of concept in that it's just listing things. But we also made a sub-page available that allows the system operator to control what components are available inside of that master item list. Great. Okay. That's pretty good, and I think that was the main thrust of things. We did go ahead and add the some of these things to the role center. So let's go ahead and see if we can publish these changes. Thankfully we have ForceSync on, so it should work all right. And away we go. Perfect. So now under setup, we will get our new option for master items. And we'll see if I refresh faster than it published. Nope. Good. Okay, so now we have the ability to create and manage our master item list. So for example, if we create a one of our earlier items, let's go with I'm going to go with a 1000 series for our simple parts. Why not? There are probably a few different ways we can go with this, but we'll try this for now, and we'll see if it works as we go through our testing process. We don't, as of yet, have any item category codes, so we'll need to fix that up. And this is a class 1 item, which means that we don't have any items that are going to be a component to this. This is one of our very low-level raw materials, but you can see our lookup already is now populated with our new fabric parts here. So perfect. So I'm going to probably also off camera just begin the process of creating all of these master items. We are eventually going to have a significant number of manufactured and assembled goods in each different item category to give players a lot of variation, and I'll try to mix and match what sort of materials are required for all those different item categories, and that'll allow players to kind of have some choice in how they want to pursue different customers, and maybe there'll be some different strategies that will evolve from that. So that's good. Alright. Okay, so, and if we look in our search, we also will see that we've got a prospect list that is not added to the role center yet, but as we can see, we do see a list of name, type, the orders per day we talked about, and a fact box off to the side that would list all of the trades available for that prospect. So we're in better shape than we were, for sure. Let's talk research and see where we can go today. So one of the things that research bots will do is, based on our research configuration, is research will unlock after a certain number of points. Well, that's good, but we're going to need to keep track of progress against those points, and this is also another table that really should be, and is not currently, data per company false, as the research table is going to apply to everyone. It is one of the game mechanic tables, so we should be a little more careful, because here we have already begun to create some data, and I believe with ForceSync turned on, when I turn data per company false, this will delete all of this data, which in this case is okay. So let's do that now and force that through, so that way we're all set there. Data per company equals false, because this is just the setup. It is the configuration and settings for a given technology. Clicking too quickly on things that pop up, always good. Data per company, false. Okay. So the way that I intend to handle the technology tree from a player perspective is Well, we may eventually at some point do some interesting things with JavaScript-based GraphJS mapping so that it is a more visually distinctive layout. But for our initial first alpha, I think we'll go ahead and worry about it from a list perspective. But how will we populate that list? How will we keep track of the progress against that list? My thinking here is that we are going to replicate the research table settings to a per company table where we can keep track of the relevant progress, and we can also decide what is currently shown to a player. We had set on the settings here if the requirements are unmet, should this research be hidden, for example, which I still think I need to come up with a much better thing. Unmet hide is like a bizarre fantasy character name more than a descriptive field name. So we may tidy that up a little bit. But let's go ahead and create a new table in the player company that is research progress. And what we will do is, as player companies work their way through the known research, that will populate the table from our research master table. So we can frankly copy this to some extent. New file, $some. Brilliant. And in this case, we are and this data per company is absolutely true. And in here, we are not going to auto increment. We are going to have a table relation to the BCS research table. Correct. And for our description field here, just to keep everything all nice and up to date, and players will not see a difference if we have to update a technology name, we will make this field class a flow field, which will be our charming lookup type to our BCS research table dot description, where I believe it's just number equal field number. Great. And we don't have to classify a flow field. Okay, so again, if you're new to flow fields, we are telling the system that this field should not be actually data. There should be no SQL field in the database for this. It is instead a calculated field, and the formula behind that calculation is to go do a lookup or sort of a join to go get the description field from this table, where this is the relationship that should drive what will be the record we want to look for. Nice and easy in this case. And we can let's see, I think we'll go ahead and do a flow field on the points. I'll leave this as integer for now. If for some reason for game balance we change the points on a research in the tech tree, but a player has already completed the research, I wouldn't want them to have to redo that research. So I don't think making a flow field makes sense here. So let's go ahead and we'll call this progress. That way, if a player starts to research something and they change the bots to start researching something else and then come back, we can store the progress here, and no big deal. So that sounds fine. And on the progress, we'll create a trigger on validate that says if progress greater than or equal 2 points, just for safety's sake, let's do a if progress is greater than points. I've been working too much in JavaScript lately, as you can tell by the brackets. Then we'll go ahead, and we don't need a begin end for a single line. You will actually get a warning from the extensions. If you do a begin and then a single line of code, it is the same as not doing a begin at all, so they don't recommend it and will warn you against it. If for some reason the progress goes over the points, like say you only have 5 research to go and 10 points of research come into this field, we want to obviously cap that. And if the progress one way or the other equals points, then we're going to flag a new field down here called completed, which is just going to be a Boolean, so that way we can do a very rapid check. Caption. So we can do a quick check on whether or not a given research ID is complete. Perfect. Okay. Not too bad. At some point in time, we may want to dig into this a little bit and also add some timestamps to this field, to this table, to indicate when the player unlocked it, when they completed this research. Some people might find there to be value in the data to go, how far was I before I researched that tech or something like that. I don't know that we need that right now. We'll see as we go through alpha testing if we want it. It's always easier to add that stuff before people are using it, however, so bear that in mind. Alright, yeah, we're fine. I don't think we need our to-do notice in here. Let's leave that, because we don't know how we were handling location unlocks just yet. Okay, so now players have a home for the research operations. So let's go ahead and head to our research bot. We need to think a little bit about the structure. This is going to be taking over and doing a certain amount of operations per day. So a research bot instance needs how many points of research is it generating per operation. I don't believe, have any field for that. We do not. Okay, so that is an example of something that is missing from our template and our instance flow. Okay. Alright, so let's add some new fields for our research bot. Research points per up. And we'll do that. Decimal around the whole thing. Great. Alright, there we are. We now have a research points per operation on our template, and we will do the same to our instance. Now, here is an example of when you don't plan out your field structure very well, things happen. So here in our bot instance, we are using field 100 for power upgrade code. And here in our bot template, I just tried to add a new field onto the end. 100 for our research points per operation. And guess what? When we try to, in our purchasing flow, when we try to create a purchase bot from the template, that is not going to go well for us. Thankfully, right now, as it stands, our instance does not do .transfer fields. So if we wanted to, we could have these two different purpose fields, both on those two different tables. But if we ever in the future do decide that dot transfer fields is something we need, even if it's from a processing or testing point of view, that operation will fail. It'll blow up, or if it doesn't blow up, which it would, if they were matching field types, we would get really bizarre results. So it's something to be aware of significantly when you're designing these related tables, that you have to think about how you may want field layouts to work. So in my case, since I know that I start doing things at 100 an instance, and I still had a little bit of room in my template between 70 and 100, I will move this instead to 80. Which, no big deal, we have no data in that field yet that would cause us any trouble to move. Research points per operation, there we are. And just being picky about field names, I like to be thorough where I can be. Alright. Okay, so now we have research points per operation. We are going to probably have some more develop over time, but today we're focusing on the research bots, so no big deal if we skip over that for now. Okay, but that does mean that here in our bot management, we may want to copy some additional fields based on the bot type. So we need our good friend case to say if it is of type research, I don't know why that jumped in and then back out. Daffy little thing. So on the instance dot research points per op is equal to our template research points per op. Brilliant. There we are. Okay. So now we've got a bit of a change to our research bots. We do not show that information anywhere to the players, so we may want to consider finding some more interesting ways to display bot-based information based on types. We're not going to tackle it right now, but my thinking about that is that in the bot instance list, that we will be able to consider the idea of breaking that up into different lists per type, or we may have different fact boxes per type. We'll see what makes the most sense. Okay, so we have lots of things open. Let's close it up. It's a little too untidy. Now we have the ability to come back to our bot research, and we can say, okay, well now we know how many points per operations and how many operations per day, and this job takes over once per day per bot already, but where do we allocate those points to? So we allocate that to the player's chosen research. Well, which research is chosen? We don't know. So we need there to be a method to determine what is the selected research for progress, and we will do that with a new field. And following my own recommendation, looking back at the research table, field 30, while tempting, is already existing here. So I'm going to go in a completely different direction, and we are going to jump to the end here, or near to the end here, and we are going to say, now in custom tables we can go crazy. We could make this field 99,999 if we really wanted to, but I'm not going to. There are probably people who would look over my code and go, why are you leaving giant gaps in the field numbering? There's a little bit of just people have their preferences of what works for them and what they think makes sense. I don't know if there is a recommended way to do that, in fact, field numbering. That's a good question. There's lots of things about naming of things and how do you name this field. Like, for example, we certainly can't name it blank, which is what we're currently doing. Yeah. So I'm going to go with the simple and detailed name of selected. And that will be our research that is selected for current research development. Now, it is a good idea, since there can only be one selected at a time, we should do a pretty common little trick here where we say, let's say BCS Research 2 is a record of BCS Research. Our list is getting longer and longer, and it's becoming more obvious of why we have the prefix, and we'll see in the drop-down that it's still going to be a while before we don't see the list very well, but I do like the IntelliSense being able to handle some of these things. So what we're going to do is we're going to look to see if any other entry in this table that is not the one we're currently on is set for selected. We need to shut them all off. So the way we'll do that is set filter on our which will be our primary key on, I believe it's research ID, research number. Research number does not equal rec.number. And now, nice and simple, rather than throw an error at the user that they have to deal with it, we can just do a wonderful modify all for selected, which is our new field, false. Yeah, and it's complaining that research must be a member because I selected the wrong table. That explains a few things. That makes more sense. I was wondering how I had research number and number. Okay, so anytime you select a given research in your progress bar, or in your progress list as a player, then that is now the only one that can be selected. So we will need a research page for the player to see and set this information. We haven't even made that yet, but we are going to come back to our research bot for now. Let's see, and we can go ahead and comment out returning our result text. Okay, so now we have a few things we know. We know that this runs once per day, and we know the ops per instance, and we know the research points. I can't type research today. Research points per op. So in the math of things, we get all that, and then we are going to locate the selected research and validate add the points. Okay. And I think for fanciness, then when we do the get result text, we will return how many research points this particular bot has made towards the selected research. And we might even say something fancy like a progress bar at some point, or progress percent in the log, to make it clear where things were. So let's do apply research. Ooh, yeah, okay. I keep keep wanting to type JavaScript TSLint things where you have to say what you're returning, including ending in void. Brilliant. Not relevant in AL, thankfully. Okay, so we know on this bot instance, finally we have our research points per operation and the number of operations, so we will have a var in here of points to add a decimal, and we will take our rec dot. I thought rec was global, but perhaps we need to pass in the bot instance. Alright, things you learn. So up here we used a variable that looked for all intents undefined, rec.operations per day, and it worked perfectly fine because the table number was specified. Well, that apparently is context correct for the run trigger, but it is not a global variable. So when we come down here into our procedure, when we try to access rec, nothing. So we will want to one could make a case for why am I bothering to make this a procedure? It's the only code. It could be in onRun, so what is the value? I'm not sure I can say why there is particular value. It is possible at some point in time we might want to demask this procedure and have it be something that could be manually applied for testing, where we have a testing toolkit where we manually can spam click a button, apply research for something. Don't know. But by wrapping it up, we can at least then have the option. So we will take our operations per day and helps to do the assignment times our research points per operation. That's how many we're going to add. And now we need our player research. I'll call it that for clarity that we are wanting our research progress table. So we will do a set range on selected true. So this, real quick and simple, does a filter to the research table that the player has to see if they've selected any research, and if we should only ever find one, so we'll go with find first. And I'm doing it again with my brilliant JavaScript bracketing. Alright, so BCS player research dot validate to the progress integer our BCS player research dot progress plus our points to add. There we are. And as we recall, back here in research progress, we do some validation here to say if the progress is greater than points, drop it down, and if it's completed, it's all set and done. Now, something that we can look at that would, I think, streamline operations, like if we had 30 bots and they finished the operation to research this particular technology element, this research leaf. If they finish that on the first operation, there were 29 other bots, well, this is still going to get called 29 other times. So I think it would be a good idea that we go ahead and say, we'll wrap a begin end around this bit here, and we will say selected equals false, just to manually ensure that if we manage to complete a research, it automatically is no longer selected. Now, something that this does not address is we are not baking in support right yet for research queuing. So if we were to do that, we would need to create some way that we can handle which research is next and what operations are. So at the moment, if the player is offline and a research completes, then everything research-wise stops until the player comes back in and selects something, which we still haven't coded yet. We will revisit that, but we are not going to do that right now. So now when we validate the progress, we bump up the points based on the points to add per bot, and we potentially complete research and deselect it. Now on the second operation through, if that research was completed, that will no longer be a match for this. However, we have, in the flow of things, we have 3 of our 4 things that we always need. As I talk about, we need filter, motion, action, and then writing. We are filtering, we are moving, we are taking action, but we haven't done anything to write that. So it would be very easy to accidentally come off of this without remembering we still need to modify even if we're validating. Validate does not do the save at that moment in time. So, great. All right. Now, perfect. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there are other odds and ends. We now have the beginnings of a new need. We have some research infrastructure in place where we can define what the research is and we can make progress towards it, but there is nothing in any of our code anywhere that seeds the player's company with the initial research progress. So for example, if the first level technology, say if one of our early levels of things is to research class 2 to get our improved parts, for example, there is no way to currently get that information from the master company into the player's progress. I think we need to begin the framework of a code unit that for a player company, when a new company is created, initializes some of the information for that player company. So let's create a new code unit. Okay. All right. So this gets into an interesting sort of thing. We have the ability to run this logic in a few different ways that would benefit us. For example, when we look at the master data here, we've got all of this code and logic in place for us as the system operator to copy the information to this test company. But when we're creating a new company for a player, why wouldn't we want that data to be just pushed immediately? So the way we can do that, and also potentially handle all of our tech tree, is that we can do an event subscriber to, I believe, the company table. Let's try it out. On after insert. Yep. Okay. Okay, so now theoretically when we create a new company, after it's been inserted into this company table, we can do a variety of things, such as a new procedure, copy defaults, begin. So if we go back into our setup overview page and we look at our actions, there is a copy setup to company, so we can bring this information over and here in the initialize player company name we have rec and we have run trigger. If not run trigger, then exit. Anytime you're doing event subscriptions and you can include run trigger as a boolean in the parameters, always check for that. That way, if your code is potentially going to be trying to run, but another extension says, maybe during that company creation, they have some custom logic that says, oh, that doesn't fly, we don't want this to succeed and develop all the way through, the other extensions can potentially flag run trigger false and manually say, we don't want your extension to take any action on this event, please. We've intercepted it and we're doing our own thing. So whenever possible, it's a good idea to do the run trigger pattern up top here. And we can bring that into a parameter here. So let's do copy defaults rec. Here we are. And now you can see this works okay. It says I will go ahead and copy the defaults to a given company. So we would want to add a check to this subscription to make sure that the person is in a master company because here, for example, actually we might have put that in our function. If we're not in a master company, throw an error. Beautiful. So we don't have to. So now, with this code unit listening for that company event, when we try to create a new company and this event fires, if we're not in the master company at the time, it'll just straight up throw an error. If we are in the master company, it will try to run the copy setup to default. Cool. So let's test that before we go much further here. Because our next step will be, great, now that that's in place, we should grab all of the research that has no prerequisites and copy that into the player's progress so that they can select those research options and potentially start researching. Because I would love to see us before the video, before our time is up in about 10 minutes or so, see if we can get some research ticking along. So if we create a new companies, and we go ahead and edit list and we say test player 2. Yes, it would be much easier to fix my validation error if I wasn't being yelled at in such a way as to block the screen. Okay, fantastic, and this will take just a second. As I said when we created the last company, it is making at least a few hundred, if not a few thousand SQL tables in the background. So if you don't do this often, it will take a couple minutes, even with an SSD and a decent amount of RAM. I don't believe I've got my master database on full flash drive, and a nice M2 might make this go even faster, but we'll see. So, in theory, in the background, as the process completes for test player 2, what we should have happen is the event will see that the company has been inserted, and it should copy our master company information of the company we're currently in into test player 2's company. So that's good. While we're waiting for that real quick, let's come on back to our research bots here. Nope, we're going to go back to our company initialization code unit. Great. I'm inclined, as much as it could be of value to delegate this job to one of the research code units, I'm thinking that anything to do with the player company initialization process can live in a single code unit. And it might get a little big, we'll see. We'll see how many things we get in here. But let's also do copy base research. As I said, I cannot type research today, which is a brilliant place to be in when you're doing an episode on research. Alright, and now we are going to take the begin end, and we will need okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to look through the research tree, set a range on prerequisites of 0. There are no requirements on the research. It's just purely the time and effort. We may have to revisit this if there are any introductory researches that require materials, but I think the way I'm going to do this is there will be no introductory materials. So I think that'll make it easier for players to understand how to enjoy getting familiar with this if we have some low-level researches that don't require that. So if we find any, now here's an example where we can absolutely make full use of the fact that we can just do transfer fields from BCS research and insert. And there we go. So now we can copy base research. Perfect. And as we can see, it took a little while to cruise along in the background, but test player 2 has been initialized with all of our company master data. So excellent. That is a great step. Okay. Let's see real quick. Let's go to our research setup. Interesting. I wasn't expecting this information to have survived successfully when we switched from data per company no to data per company, or false to true. Yeah, true to false. Did I set that correctly? Let's check. Data per company false. Okay. Alright. Interesting. I did not expect this data to persist. What an odd thing. I might have to play with that. It could be that only one table had data in it and it preserved that one table. I will test that because that is funky. Very unexpected. Okay, well, we now have our company initialization code unit, copy base research, and we do have in our base research setup a basic bot ops improvement. It takes 500 points and it has no prerequisites, so it should be available for us to select, but very quickly we need to give the player company a way to actually see that information. So we're just going to create a very simple research list. based on the research progress. And that is a list, sure. Okay, and I'll probably include the research number, but we don't really need to expose that. I don't think there's benefit. Let's go ahead and we'll do a selected checkbox, points, progress, and completed. And for now, we'll let that be the total for the moment, because we're just trying to get things working enough for today. This is definitely editable false. The player cannot do anything with it. So if the player can't do anything with it, we need to give them actions. And we need an area. I don't know. Processing sounds fine. And finally, and we want an action. Select. Great. Image equals. We'll do that. Promoted. That's true. Promoted category. Some really weird things get into the autocomplete. You want promoted categories to be process, and promoted as big. I think that's obsolete, but I could be wrong. It's true, and caption equals select, and finally the trigger on action begin rec dot validate selected true. And it is important here that we call the validate, and that will allow the player to select that one, but only select one. So there we are. We have a basic research list. Real quick, let's add a couple other research. That way we can show that the things are working. Let's do power. I have power. And that one is 2,000 points. And then another power. It's over 9,000. And that one is 9,001. Great. Okay, so now we'll have, we haven't added the research list to the player's role center yet, but as long as it's in here and searchable, that's okay for the moment. We can now, when the company is initialized, the research is populated. If it has no prerequisites, we have a research list so that we can select which one, and we have our bot dispatcher for the research bots ticking over, trying to allocate points per day to our player research. We only now need to also, notifications, we need a bot template for a basic research bot. So let's get that going. And we do not want to do tiles, but thank you. Research. Dr. Peabody. Sure. Base price, we're not doing anything with price yet. Base power, we are doing a little bit with power. And our operations per day is a whopping 5. Why not? Okay. So now if we go ahead and create a new company for test player 3. And again, it will be a little bit working on it, because that's just the nature of SQL. This will, at least for test player 3, create the basic research information that we will be able to select from, and we should be able to create a simple bot for them. So let's do that very quickly. I am just about out of time here. It's been 1 hour now, so I am trying to hurry. Okay, so here in our bot list, we are going to, still haven't streamlined this, we are going to buy a research bot. Finish. Auto-generated a bot for us. Great. We have not in this new company, nor in the handling of things, automatically set up a job queue entry for our bot dispatcher code unit, so we'll want to fix that up. This is the player heartbeat listener. Great. This runs all the time. Great. Okay, that's all rocking and rolling. And set status to ready. And that should tick things along. Okay, so now if we go look at our research list, what did we miss here in our research list page? Usage category list, page type list, editable false. What did we miss? Maybe just a refresh. Okay. That's an anomaly. What are we? Page 8818. I'm going to cheat a little bit just because I need to hurry this along. I did not get the result I was expecting. Metadata for page 8818 was not found. Okay. That does make me wonder if perhaps the company initialization did not work correctly. It did not. Alright. Fine. We have to hop back to the master data company speedy like, and we'll go to companies, and we're going to make a test player 4. My SQL server is going to dislike me by the end of this project. I think I'll have 60,000-70,000 tables. I have worked with a customer that had north of 100 companies in their NAV database pre-Business Central, so I know it can handle it in theory. Alright, so now if we go to our test player 4, as you can see, it's also getting speedy about creating the new companies here. There is nothing to show in this view. Well, that's frustrating. Oh dear. I see the issue. Maybe you do, maybe you do not. Maybe you were screaming at your screen at me. Very simple here. I don't know why I'm not even getting error messages. I sure should have been, because I was calling transfer fields to go from research to player. But I am running the initialization company in my master company, and this research progress table is being populated in the master company as well. These should absolutely have errored out of me, so it's brilliant. Change company to rec.name. I always say it, you gotta make sure you move, but you gotta make sure you move your destination too. Alright. I appreciate so much whoever coded the fact that I can mistype companies and get companies. That's brilliant. I don't know who has the detective logic that is able to parse that out, but that is fantastic. Okay, so now in test player 5 company, I will delete these testing players before our next stream. I don't want to have a huge list of companies until we are actively trying to test alpha, but it's fine. This should only take a few seconds. It's getting pretty speedy about all this company creation. Brilliant. That is a correct error. I was trying to create a company from my test player 4 company, and this code unit does throw an error when I attempt to do things. So it went ahead and errored as it should, and let's see how it copes with rolling back at company creation. So we do not want to design, but thank you for offering. BCS master data. And finally, companies. And there is no test player 5 company. So it did roll back that transaction correctly about the company creation. I'm impressed. As you can see, when you use event hooking onto even system tables, you can intercept and disrupt the flow of events. Incredibly powerful, incredibly dangerous. So, develop responsibly or something. Let's see. So, test player 5. And we should finally have here in our research list, here we are. Okay, so now we can switch between which research we're working on. We'll work on I have the power, and we are going to need to redo some of the things we did. The job queue, real speedy like 8803, the heartbeat listener. I cannot wait to have this be something that I don't have to type in, and we palm. We will get this in that initialization code unit in the very, very near future, because I don't like to have to do this. So there's that, and now if we go to our bots list and we create ourselves a new research bot. Finish. There we are, and I'm going to, while I'm waiting, create a few more, because I would like to see how this works. I hope it works. We can officially draw a line under research working, I hope. Alright, now we should be able to go to our bot activity log. We don't see anything there yet, so let's go check the job queue entries. And now the heartbeat listener is waiting for a heartbeat for the game to take over. It is possible that it does not see that it has yet. So let's go here. Okay, it believes the current game date is 11:14. If we go to master data, quick, and we go to game setup, and we manually take this over and head back to our test company. Then we should be able to go to our job queue, take a look here. We should see that there's some success here, and we should any old time now be seeing our next tick. And hopefully with our next tick we will have some progress. Let's check the activity log. I'm being impatient. And there is no activity, so is there our stream from before with the bot error log. Just being very impatient with it. Okay, that has allegedly ticked over. And we have research ticking over, in theory. But we have no progress. What did I miss? Let's do a real speedy check here. Another, if you're watching for it, you'd probably be screaming at me. Here's our old friend. 0 references. I didn't call the function. Brilliant. Apply research, rec. Now, we are not producing any message to the log about what we are, what we're actually getting for points, so that could be something we might want to fix. Let's go ahead and copy this down here. If you want to use single quotes inside of a single quote string like this, just do 2 of them, which can lead to kind of nonsense. I have generate blah 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 points, and we'll replace that with points to add. Great. And did we update this? We do have 1 reference. We're spitting out some data, and we're going to tick this over. We're going to see research in just a moment, and then we're going to call things a wrap for today with the official first bit of research actively done in the game. That'll be good. All right. Now we'll see if the job queue in the company we're in our testing company, a couple times it has managed to try to tick while the extension was being reinstalled. We'll see if that happens again. 813, great. And if we go to our activity log, we don't see anything yet. Nothing yet. I do want to see the heartbeat driving it, so we can technically edit this and then bump it down in time. I'm not doing that because it's set already to every minute. And we do not have any progress, so let's check if there was an error in the event log. There was not. Let's see if there is activity in the activity log. I've generated 0 points. Well, that would do it. 0 points of progress generated. We're doing fantastic, everyone. If we look at the inspect under the help and support inspect pages, I'm going very quickly, I apologize for that. Research points per operation is 0 for all of our bots, so that would do it. What would be the fastest way for us to fix this? I am going to do a design real quick, and I am going to add the research points field here. It is likely an issue with my template. I am going to make a quick extension from the designer and call it that. Just the fastest path, since this is still editable for us. 10, 10, and 10, sure. Because I would like this to work. just like the clock ticking by. And there we are. We did it. We have 150 research progress towards this research now. And that is because if we look at the activity log, 3 bots ticked over, and I told each of them to generate 10 research points per operation. And if we look at our bot list, we can see that the research bots are getting currently a generous 5 ops per day. So there we are, a little bit over, about 15 minutes or so, but we officially have a research engine. It's not much, it definitely isn't much, but we have it. Alright, fantastic. Well, we have begun the process of hooking into some of the events that we are going to need to make use of, and we have the beginnings of a research system. We will need to spend some more time with that in the near future to create some of the initial possibilities of unfolding tech. For example, there is right now, as it stands, nothing at all happens when the research is complete. When the research actually gets completed, it gets marked as no longer selected, and nothing else happens. So we are going to need to do a little more with that. For example, any researches that require this research as one of its prerequisites, if that is the only prerequisite it has, or is the only one left that has not been researched, that will unlock the destination one. So we'll probably spend some more time tomorrow with that unfolding sort of system, and between now and then I will see what I can do to get some of the master item information that we looked at in our master item list in the main company here. I will get this populated with at least our class 1 and some of the class 2 items. I will begin creating some of the item categories to link things together. So for now, thanks for watching. Take care, everyone.